Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of The Package Tourist, hosted by yours truly, the Package Tourist, the magical mystery tour called life, Matthew DiBiase. Tonight's guest is novelist Paul D McDonald. Paul resides in western Pennsylvania, and before he became a novelist, he worked as a media director for Infinity Concepts, and before that, as the assistant to the program director for Cornerstone Television. In July 2022, Paul published his first novel, Mystery at the Haunted Castle. And in April 2023, Paul released his second novel, Mystery on Campus. Both of these books showcase the Flaugherty twins, Pat and Patty, who have the unintentional penchant for getting involved in mysteries and eventually solving them. Tonight, we pay tribute to Paul D. McDonald's writing career. Paul, welcome to the show. It's a great honor and privilege to have you here. And
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, yes. I'd like to start off by asking you, Paul, please tell our listeners about your very first novel, Mystery at the Haunted Castle. How long did it take for you to write, and what is the basic plot of the novel?
Well, actually, I wrote the original story for that book when I was 15 years of age. I've rewritten it many, many times since then, and it took me 50 years to publish it. I'll explain a little bit more about that later, but that's where that's the important thing to know for now. Each of the books in the series centers around a particular crime that occurs, and then also a personal problem that the twins will face either from a friend or a family member. And those two elements come together to actually form the story, and they overlap a lot. In this particular mystery, it starts out with Patty receiving a promise ring from her boyfriend, Bob. They are at a jewelry store when it happens because he's having the ring inscribed for her. And while they're there, jewel thieves come in and steal the jewels plus her ring. This kind of sets off a series of events that gets them involved in the mystery because they find out that there is a group of international jewel thieves who are stealing all over the world, and the jewels are going from country to country, and no one knows how they're being smuggled out of the various countries. Shortly after that, they are invited to take a trip to Paris, and they bump into an old friend of the family who has a niece who happens to have going to be inheriting a chateau in Paris, in France. And so when they are going to go, she asks them if they would stop and see her niece, give her the gift that she has for her birthday, which is an antique doll, and also to help them with a mystery that she has. And the mystery is that there is a ghost haunting the castle. And so the twins get on the plane and travel to Paris, and all kinds of interesting things happen once they get there. The doll is stolen from them. They find a second doll that looks exactly like the first one, except it has a different outfit. They go to the castle, and there's poisoning attempts, there's ghostly appearances, there's a deadly joust, all kinds of exciting things happening while they're trying to sort out what's really going on. And in the meantime, their newfound friend, the niece, has told them that once she inherits the castle when she reaches her 21st birthday, she may lose it because her inheritance from her grandfather has been missing. He has apparently hidden it somewhere in the castle, so they have to help her to find that as well. So all of these things tie in together, and we find out that the international jewel thieves are very involved in very much of what's going on at the castle as well. So it gets to be a pretty exciting story. It's got cliffhanger chapter endings for each chapter, so it puts you on the edge of your seat for the entire story.
Wow. I mean, a quick question about your two books. Is this young adult fiction, or is it, what genre would you classify your books?
I call it middle grade, but It's been called young adult, and it also is called cozy mysteries. So all three. I have lots of adults that like to read these, especially people that remember the Nancy Drew and Hardy Boy books from way back when, because my books are very similar to that. So it's got middle grade reading level, so a middle grader could enjoy it, but it also has elements for young adults since my characters are 17-year-old teenagers. And then anybody that likes a cozy mystery, that enjoys a good puzzle, as an adult, would enjoy these as well.
Okay. Now, Paul, please tell our listeners about the Flaugherty twins, Pat and Patty. Tell them what do they look like? I mean, emotional, educational characteristics, physical characteristics. What is the relationship between the two twins?
Sure, absolutely. Like I said, they're 17 years old. Pat has dark curly hair and mischievous blue eyes, is the way I describe it. Patty, his sister, has dark hair, straight. She has serious blue eyes. Both of them are readers. They love to read. Pat plays football, so he's into sports. Patty's a cheerleader, so they're very athletic, both of them, very outgoing. Pat tends to be kind of happy-go-lucky personality, very impulsive, acts without thinking a lot of times. Patty, on the other hand, is very practical and serious and a planner. So they're very opposite in personality, but they're a typical brother and sister.
Okay. Now, how do Pat and Patty go about solving crimes? When it comes to problem solving, what does each twin bring to the table in terms of ability in solving mysteries and solving crimes?
Well, as I mentioned, they have very different personalities, and so they both attack things from a different angle, and as a result, when they work together, they kind of complete the puzzle. Pat has an ability to read people. He can pretty much tell when somebody's telling him the truth, when somebody's lying to him. He can immediately dislike someone who is up to no good, even without knowing what they're doing. He just has that sense. Patty is an observer of details. She notices the little things that everybody else misses. So together they put their skills together and can solve pretty much any crime. The problem is that she's a planner. He wants to dive in without thinking first, so they tend to fight a little bit as a result of that, but they eventually get to where they need to go, and they definitely love each other and take care of each other.
Now, do your books discuss the parents of Pat and Patty? What are they like, and how do they feel about their kids getting involved in solving criminal mysteries?
Okay, well, their father died when they were 2 years of age, and that will be developed later in a later book in the series. So they live with their mom. She gets apprehensive about some of the things that they get involved in, but she's totally 100% behind them. So she supports them in everything they do. And they do have a father figure in Bob's dad, Patty's boyfriend's dad, whom they call Uncle Sam, even though he's not related to them. His wife is deceased, and he's become a good friend of their mom, so he's been around the house a lot and around the family a lot, and so he's really filled in as a father figure for them.
Paul, just to anticipate future volumes, do you think perhaps Sam and Pat and Patty's mother might later become romantically involved? Potential?
They might.
Okay, for subsequent volumes, who knows,
Actually, I have written 9 books in the series so far, and I'm working on number 10 right now.
Ooh.
And that will come up.
Okay, what is the setting? Where do Pat and Patty live? I mean, do they have a home? Where is their home, Pat and Patty?
Yeah, the town is called Temple City, and I have no idea why I picked that name, but I did. And I modeled it after Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
All right.
So some of the things, some of the places there will sound familiar to Pittsburghers, but it's a fictional city called Temple City, and it is present-day time.
Okay. All right. Now, Paul, if Hollywood ever made a movie or TV show about the Flaugherty twins, what actor and actress could play Pat and Patty respectively?
Well, when I was first thinking about what Pat looked like, I came across a movie with an actor named Ryan Pavey, and I saw him and I thought, oh my goodness, that's Pat. The problem with it is that Ryan is a little old for the part now, so he would not work out with that. But he has the right look. Just recently, I saw another movie with actor named Ryan Murray. He is in his mid-20s, but he plays 17-year-olds, it says in his bio. The only catch with him is he has brown eyes. And I think his eyes are not as playful either. He has kind of little suspicious eyes, so I don't know that he would work out. But he's probably the closest I've seen so far to any actor that would work out for the part. As far as Patty, I have never found an actress that I think fit her, and I'm not sure why, but I just have not come across anybody that I really liked for the part. When I hired the artist to do the artwork for the covers and for the characters themselves, the artwork, when he finished it, it reminded me of Patty's picture of a young Dana Delaney.
Ooh,
but again, she's too old for the part. So, but yeah, that's probably the closest I would come to deciding what they look like.
Okay. Well, let's talk about your second book, Mystery on Campus. Where is the book set, and what is the basic plot, Paul?
Okay, this takes place mostly at the State University, which is modeled after Penn State, where I went to school, even though it's not called that since this is a fictional university. An old friend of from high school that used to date Patty back in the day has gone to college, and he's at the university now, and he comes to visit them to discuss a problem that he has. In the middle of discussing it, he chickens out and doesn't finish telling them what is going on. They think, because of some circumstances that happen, that he's involved in counterfeiting. And they have an opportunity to go to the university for an educational program that their school is sponsoring called Careers in Education to help them to look into their chosen fields of study in the future. So they're spending a week at college, and their friend is there, so they decide to look into the mystery and see what's going on, to see what's really happening with him, and to see if he really is involved with the counterfeiters. And so it ends up that some pretty hairy things happen on the way, but they end up helping their friend and breaking up the ring of counterfeiters at the end of the story.
Okay. Now, besides Pat and Patty, now you also mentioned their mother and, of course, their friend Sam and all that. Do your books have any recurring characters or foes by any chance?
I have been thinking about doing something like that because I think that's an important thing to have. But so far in the 9 books I've written, I have not had one recurring foe. I've had one that's in 2 different books.
Okay.
But I may yet. Right now, he's in prison after the second book that he's in. So, but I may have him be that recurring foe for them, since he is an interesting character, formidable, and definitely could cause some problems for them. So yes, there's a potential for that. But right at this point, no. I just have different villains every book.
Okay. Now, you mentioned earlier Patty has a boyfriend. Does Pat have a girlfriend?
Yes, and she's in the first book. Her name is Kathy. She's a sometimes girlfriend. Pat likes girls, and if he sees a pretty girl, he wants to be open to dating other girls. So he's not exclusive to Kathy. Okay. Patty and Bob have a very serious relationship, and they are very exclusive with one another. But Pat is not. He likes to play the field a little. So, so poor Kathy. She's, but I think she's not offended by it because she's pretty much does the same thing. I think.
Okay.
So, she's one of the most popular girls in school. So.
Yep. Okay. Paul, let's talk about you now. Where were you born and raised?
Okay, I was born and raised in North Versailles, Pennsylvania, which is where I live now.
Okay.
I did move away for a while, but I'm back.
Okay. And so that's in the greater Pittsburgh area, thereabouts?
Yes.
All right.
It is. It's outskirts. It's the suburbs of Pittsburgh. So I'm probably about 20 minutes from downtown.
What did your parents do for a living?
Okay, my dad was a steel worker.
Ooh.
When the plants closed down, he ended up getting a job at maintenance at my school district, but that's where he retired from. But he started out as a steel worker when I was younger. Mom was a stay-at-home mom. I'm the youngest of 7 children, so she had a full-time job right there.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah.
Yes. And before that, she had been a secretary.
Okay.
Before they married.
Where did you go to school and then later college?
McKeesport High School? Well, actually, I went to Sarah High School for 1 year. That's a Catholic high school in the area. But their tuition increased so much that my parents couldn't afford to send me there a second year, so I ended up going to the public high school, which was McKeesport High School. And then I went on to college at Penn State University. And if you know McKeesport area, McKeesport High School sits across the street from the Greater Allegheny campus of Penn State.
Yeah.
So I pretty much went across the street for 2 years, and then I went up to the main campus for my third year and finished out my degree up at in-state college at the main campus.
Now, you worked in media. What were you doing? Okay, when you weren't writing novels, what were you doing, job-wise? You were working in media, weren't you?
Yes. When I started college, I started in a journalism major, but I found out that wasn't working for me. So I ended up moving into broadcasting, and I got a degree in broadcasting. And so my last semester of college, I ended up getting an internship with a local television station in the Pittsburgh area. And when I graduated, they offered me a job. So I took it. So I started working at that local television station, which eventually became Cornerstone Television Network. And so I was there for many, many years, and one of the vice presidents left the Cornerstone to start his own marketing company, and he asked me to join his staff as their media director, so I did that after many, many years, and I stayed with him for many, many years. And as a media director, what I did for him was I would buy all the advertising and all the airtime for all of our clients, whether it was television, radio, internet, newspaper, magazine, even billboards. I bought everything. So that's what I did for a living.
Now, since your characters are twins, Paul, by any chance, are you the father of twin children, by any chance?
The only children I have are on paper.
Now, your family, you were the youngest of 7. Did you have any twin brothers or sisters?
Nope. There are no twins in my immediate family at all.
Okay.
I just have always been fascinated by twins because one of the things that my characters will have throughout the series also is they have a psychic connection.
Yeah.
They tend to be able to know what the other one is thinking, and oftentimes when one gets in trouble, the other one will know it. So they have some kind of connectedness that's beyond the normal. And I was always fascinated by that with twins, so I wanted to explore that with my characters.
Okay. Now, Paul, do you have a website? If so, please tell our audience what is your web address?
Actually, I have 2 websites.
Okay.
One is my personal one, which is pauldmcdonald.com, and I have to use the D because there are other Paul McDonalds out there. There's like 5 other authors named Paul McDonald.
Yeah.
And there's a musician named Paul McDonald who has a lot of stuff on the internet. When I was in college, there was a quarterback at California University that was named Paul McDonald. So I always say Paul D McDonald. So it's PAULDMCDONALD, which is spelled just like the hamburger place, .com. That's my main website. On there I have some excerpts of my writing, some essays, some short stories, and I also do some scripture reflections on there based on the readings from Sunday Mass. My second website is for the books exclusively. It's called FlaughertyTwins.com. And of course, I chose the horrible spelling of Flaugherty because there's a simpler spelling. But mine is FlaughertyTwins.com.
Okay. Now, out of curiosity, Paul, what's the D stand for in your middle initial?
David.
Okay. Now, on your website, you do written meditations about your faith. Would you be willing to share some of your spiritual insights for our audience, Paul?
Sure. Yeah, I think one of the keys that I've learned over the years is surrender to God. We surrender our lives in many ways to God, and sometimes when you first become a Christian, the whole idea is that you've surrendered your life to God. But what we find is that parts of us are still not surrendered, and so it's a ongoing process of learning to surrender various parts to God. And one of the things that I found difficult to surrender to him, because I'm a control freak, is my writing. I mentioned earlier that there was a 50-year gap from when I wrote the book to when I published it, and part of that had to do with the struggle I was having in my faith with trying to figure out what God wanted me to do with my writing. When I wrote the first book, I was not a very strong Christian at all, and I was involved in a lot of because I was reading science fiction and that kind of thing. I was also looking at occult things, and so I was reading a lot about that kind of activity. And as a result, my story also reflected that, and I had a lot of occult elements in the story, a lot of supernatural things that were not godly. And when I really chose to commit my life fully to God, which happened while I was in college with my girlfriend, I thought I could not continue to write because my writing was not reflective of who I was becoming. And I did not want to lead other people astray by reading something that I felt was not godly. So I had a struggle with that for years because it was on my heart to write. I love writing. It's very freeing for me. It's very uplifting for me. But at the same time, here I was. I had a book that was first one in the series, and it had all these problems with it. So it took me many, many years to finally reconcile with the fact that God was okay with me writing and wanted me to write, and I needed to figure out a way to fix that first book. So that was one of the many rewrites that I did, was I eliminated most of the occult elements from the story. And now I think it's something that is a good story still, but it definitely is not as what it could have been before, when it had the occult things. Thank goodness. What I find that I did with that was I ended up having my characters go through the same cycle I went through. I thought that would be a unique way to approach things. So my characters start out as very nominal in their faith as well, but I want them to grow in their faith through the series. In book number 3, which will be coming out later this month, I have my first explicitly Christian characters. There's a Protestant minister as one of the characters in the story, and he will recur every once in a while. We'll see him in the future as well, and those kind of characters will help to start shaping my team's faith, and eventually they will become stronger in their faith, and some faith elements will even play into parts of the stories, though they're not going to be religious stories by any means. They're still mystery stories, but faith will be an important part of some of the stories. And I for myself, that's what I want to do in life. Faith is important to me now, and I want to express that, and I want to share that with others.
So, getting back to Pat and Patty, are they spiritual minded? Do they get into their own spirituality in the books? Are they spiritual minded?
Not in the least at the beginning. They're typical teenagers. They go to church because they have to, and that's about it.
Okay.
They will eventually start thinking those kind of things. In book number 5 of the series, I will introduce a priest character, and he will become a mentor for them.
Okay.
And he will start them to start thinking of things along faith lines.
Okay.
Right now in the 3rd book, like I mentioned, the Protestant minister does some faith-based things, and they see it, but they don't necessarily grasp it and go with it. So it's going to take them a while to learn the importance of faith in their own lives.
Basically, all in the Lord's time, right, Paul?
There you go. Yes, or in my time, in that case, since I get to create them. So.
Okay. Paul, whenever I interview an author on my show, I always love to ask the standard question. Who were your favorite authors when you were growing up? And of those favorite authors, did any of them light the spark inside you to become a writer or perhaps influence your writing style?
Interesting question. I've always loved to read. When I was in grade school, we had a book challenge, and it was like read 50 books in 1 year or something like that, and lots of different kind of books they recommended that we read, and I read through them all and loved them all. I remember one of the ones that I read in that was Tolkien's The Hobbit. I'd never heard of J.R.R. Tolkien before then. I didn't know anything about that, and I was not super impressed by The Hobbit, but I read it anyways. And then once I got into high school, I was starting to get more in science fiction and fantasy and those kind of things, and so I read the entire Lord of the Rings trilogy then. I also read Edgar Rice Burroughs' John Carter Mars series. I read Dune, which I thought was incredibly long. And I didn't always get what was going on. I read Isaac Asimov. I, of course, read short stories by Edgar Allan Poe. Love that. But I think some of the books that I read the most were the Edward Stratemeyer books. And if you're familiar with him, he is the gentleman who created a writing syndicate where he had a bunch of writers working for him, and they would use pen names like Franklin W. Dixon and Carolyn Keene, among many. And if you're familiar with those names, you know that that's the Nancy Drew and Hardy Boys series.
Ooh.
So those are the books that I read a lot of. And what's funny is I actually started with Nancy Drew before I ever read the Hardy Boys, and it was because my sister was 3 years older than me, and she brought them home from the library, and when she finished them, I started reading them. And I was in second grade when I was reading those books, so they were way above my reading level, but I read them anyways. And actually, I think it increased my vocabulary, increased my desire to write even. So, but I don't think any of those books actually influenced me to become a writer or put the spark in me. It happened actually in my English class in high school. My English teacher gave us an assignment to do an essay on an object lesson, and I ended up writing a short story that was a detective mystery, and it did use the object lesson that he gave me, and it was just this long, convoluted story that was just hilarious, but he gave me an A for it, of course. But when I finished writing it, I just knew I wanted to be a writer, and that was what did it.
Okay.
And shortly after that, I created the Flaugherty twins, and I started writing the first book. And like I said, I've rewritten it many times because I actually looked at the Hardy Boys and decided how were they laid out, how are the books developed, how the stories work, and that's where I came up with the ideas of how to write what I write now. So I do have the cliffhanger chapter endings. And I have the very similar writing style as far as the telling instead of showing, which I know some editors don't like. But it's funny. So I was influenced by Stratemeyer's books, but I was also influenced by cartoons that I saw in the day. If you remember the Johnny Quest cartoons?
Yeah.
Johnny Quest is fearless, and Pat has a little bit of that in him. And then also, I used to love Scooby-Doo. So, and the thing that I love about that, and the thing that I borrowed about that, is the original Scooby-Doo series, where they would always have a mysterious, haunting kind of mystery, and it would turn out not to be supernatural in the least. It was always some criminal doing something and just using the supernatural things to hide their criminal activity. And so that's what I've brought into my stories too. Most of the time, like in the Haunted Castle, it is not a real ghost. It is definitely criminals trying to pretend to be ghosts.
Okay. Paul, are your books conventionally published or self-published?
Mine are what's called hybrid published, which is closer to self-publishing than anything else. Basically, in conventional publishing, they pay you to publish the book. In self-publishing and hybrid, you pay them. So in the hybrid publisher that I work with, they do all the editing, the design, the layout, the printing, the distribution through Ingram Distribution Network, but then I have to do the marketing.
Okay. Paul, please tell our audience, where can readers find your books?
Well, can go to either one of my websites, and you'll find links there. The links are to the Newman Springs, which is the publisher's name, to their website where they have all the links for all the places they've distributed. But then I also have the additional links to Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and Apple Books primarily on my sites. But I've even seen the books on Walmart.com. Now, my books are what's called print on demand, which means that most bookstores like Barnes & Noble will not have physical books in the store. You can go online and purchase the book from barnesandnoble.com, but you cannot go and walk into a Barnes & Noble store and get it there.
Okay.
You can walk into a Barnes & Noble store and order it, and they will order it for you online. But and since it's print on demand, it's done pretty quickly. So, but so Amazon is the main place, obviously, where people can get the books. And I do have hardcover, and I have digital. So you can get for Kindle, for Nook, and then Apple Books is also digital. So.
Now, Paul, I saw on your website you are working on Volume 3 of the Flaugherty twins. When can we expect its release, Volume 3?
I just, 2 weeks ago, ordered the first print copies, which I have to approve before the publishing happens. So they said it would take about 3 to 4 weeks for me to receive those. So I expect in a couple weeks' time I should have those books, and I will turn them around very quickly and get the approval. So I expect it to be published before the end of this month.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So it's coming out that quickly, yes. So I'm excited. It's been a long haul on that book as well. So.
Do you have a title? Can you give us a glimmer? What's the title of the book? Can you give us a glimmer?
It's called Lost on Black Mountain. This time the twins are asked to help out at a summer camp up in the mountains, and the reason they're asked to help out is because some strange things are happening there, and the people that own the summer camp want to find out what's going on. So they've asked them to come not only as counselors, but also to see if they can figure out what the mystery is. In addition to that, one of their friends is a victim of a pickpocket at the train station when they arrive, and they have to look into that. They find out that some local homes are being burglarized, so they look into that. And then they also find that there's a mysterious cult that lives on the other side of the lake from the summer camp. And all of those tie together eventually at the end of the story. So that's what happens there. And of course, the title Lost on Black Mountain is because Pat gets lost in the middle of the story on a canoe trip.
Okay. Well, Paul, you're always welcome to return to the show, and I'd love to have you. And I'd love to have you back again. Okay.
Oh, well, thank you very much.
All right.
I appreciate that.
You take care and good luck.
Okay. God bless.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Stay tuned, ladies and gentlemen, for next week's show, where I will be interviewing author Denise O'Leary. And I'd just like to tell my listeners out there that my personal book, Patriarchs of the Dugout, Baseball's Greatest Managers, is available at Amazon in either paperback or Kindle. You can just go to Amazon, type in my name, Matthew DiBiase, MattheW DiBiase, and it's there. Or you just type in the title, Patriarchs of the Dugout, Baseball's Greatest Managers. It's on sale at 25% off and will remain on sale for the remainder of the baseball season. Thank you and good night.